Island Driver TV keeps OC16's viewers up to date on what's happening in Hawaii's car industry and automobile culture. The show's host, Ed Kemper, may not be the leggy blonde you'd normally expect to be hosting a car show, but he certainly knows his stuff. His love affair with cars started back in his high school days.
I was a teenager who was interested in women, or girls as the case may be, and cars. Unfortunately, my parents said, here, have your grandma's car, which was an old, ancient Dodge and looked like a grandma's car. So the first chance I got, I bought something old with a V8 engine and hopped it all up and modified it to make it more desirable for me and girls.
His love for cars hasn't faded over time. In fact, one of his favorite possessions is his current ride.
Well, this is a 1972 De Tommaso Pantera, and they imported this from Italy for about 3 years, or maybe 4, not many of them. There's probably 20 on the island, although many of them are what we call garage queens. In other words, they sit in the garage and don't go anywhere. I drive mine. I figure I own it. What's the point of having it sit in the garage? So this is one I used to race in solo racing, but one day I decided to go to, say, 6,200 RPM, and Mr. Engine said, no, you aren't. Boom, blew a rod right through the side of the block. So I retired that one as a racer, so now it's strictly a street car.
But in case you were thinking that Ed's just a gearhead, think again. This television host is also a lawyer.
I was in college. I was a history major, and when you have a history degree at the end of your 4th year, you say, well, what am I going to do? So I said, well, I'll apply to law school, what the heck. And I got admitted, so I went to law school. And law is history related because you're always looking back on what the case law is so you can apply it to the present case. After I finished law school, I decided I wanted to go to a warmer climate. And I sent out resumes to Florida, Nevada, California, and whatever. And I got an offer to come to Hawaii to see what I'd be interested in. It took me about a microsecond to say, yes, I'll come out and take a look. And they made me a job offer, and I came out.
After moving to Hawaii, Ed started to branch out and began writing.
I was on the board of editors of the Hawaii Bar Journal, which is not a guide to bars, it's for the lawyers. And occasionally we would write articles about automobiles, and it was usually because the publisher wanted to get some ads. And then when the Star Bulletin and the Advertiser split, I wrote a letter to the Star Bulletin and said, hey, you ought to do local car reviews. And they said, hey, you're right, and I started to write them. Then another fellow who absolutely had some connection with the Bar Journal said, why don't we do a TV show based upon your reviews? And he approached Oceanic Cable and the birth of Island Driver TV. So he would take my reviews, use that as a script for his video of a car review. And they, of course, had other parts of car activities, car shows, things like that. And then eventually, he sort of dropped out, another fellow came in, and I eventually became a co-producer and owner of the show.
Ed credits his father for his love of cars, law, and the limelight.
So I grew up in Washington, D.C., which is sort of the headquarters of federal government activities, and my father was an FBI agent. But he wasn't the typical one. He was the sort of PR guy, and he would have to go to Hollywood all the time when the FBI-related movies were ongoing or television, and he would be the, quote, technical director. In other words, he would tell them, FBI agents never did that, don't do this, don't do that. So it was kind of an interesting life, not only because of the FBI, but because of his movie and television activities.
But when Ed's not in the courtroom or putting the pedal to the metal on the racetrack, you'll probably find him running. Yes, running.
I'm sort of a mini gym rat. I'm not there every day, but often enough. And I do run. And I enter 5 or 6 or 7 races every year, like I just did the Great Aloha Run. I finished 4th in my age group. Of course, I signed up as a 106-year-old woman, so maybe that, no, I'm only kidding. So I was relatively pleased with that, although my time, darn it, was 34 seconds slower than last year, and I had worked harder at it, but it's life in the big city, I guess.
You can catch Ed on Island Driver TV exclusively on Oceanic Time Warner OC16. Log on to OC16.tv for showtimes or to watch back episodes of the show anytime in our show's library online.